Hello everyone and welcome to another very interesting game from the quarterfinals of the FIDE World Cup 2023. It is Praggnanandhaa versus Arjun Erigaisi. This is their first game and the two of them are very good friends, and Pragg already said that he would like to face anyone but him, but what are you gonna do? Only one of them can be victorious here, and only one can go into the semifinals. So let's check it out. It's quite a tactical game. You guys will enjoy this one. Pragg has the white pieces and he opens with knight to f3. He goes for the reti opening. We have pawn to d5, g3, g6, and now bishop to g2. The king's Indian attack, the double fianchetto. Bishop to g7, and now pawn to d4. We have knight to f6 and both players castle. So nothing new here. We have c4, c6, and now standard here is to just play c captures and d5. This is the absolute stop move, and pretty much everyone plays that. Some other moves that are known here are b3, knight to c3, queen to b3. All can be played, but here we have queen to a4, which is extremely rare. But again, Praggnanandhaa goes in the footsteps of Magnus Carlsen. Magnus has already used this move in 2014 in the Zurich Chess Challenge to defeat none other than Boris Gelfand, and he was successful in it. So let's see how queen a4 goes for Pragg. We have knight back to d7, from knight f to d7, and going for knight to b6. If you're not careful, if you just develop a piece, then knight to b6 will cost you a pawn. This will come with a double attack, so of course you need to do something about that. Pragg has to waste a move, queen back to b3, and now already we have a completely new game as of move 8, with Arjun playing pawn to a5. Okay, c captures on d5, and now pawn to a4 first before recapturing on d5. Queen back to d1. And now c captures on d5. We have knight to c3 going after the pawn, and knight to b6. Now the pawn is nicely defended, as Pragg can simply move the knight from f3 and further attack the pawn. You need to set up the defense with moves like pawn to e6. We have bishop to f4, knight to c6, and now rook to c1. We have rook to a5, a very active square for the rook, and pawn to b3 now. We have captures, and now bishop to g4. Going after the knight here, so knight to e5 going after the bishop, and bishop to e6, and now queen to d2. Now you have some ideas of bishop to h6, but also if maybe this knight moves, then you can maybe move your knight from c3 and put some pressure on that rook on a5. But Arjun just plays queen to a8, doubling up on the a file, and now he will have some very nice pressure here. It's equal material, both players, still the bishop pair. It's the exact same material, and both players with the isolated b pawn. Only it's a little bit easier for Arjun to attack the Pragg's b pawn on b3 than it is for Pragg to attack that b pawn on b7. So here we have pawn to e3, rook to c8, and now knight back to d3. And here we have bishop to f5 going after this knight, because this knight is very strong. It can go to b4, also it guards the b4 square. It can go to c5 to e5. So of course Arjun wants to eliminate it. We have h3, and he eliminates it right away. Bishop captures on d3, and this also solves his problem of the light square bishop, as it really wasn't doing all that much. Queen captures, and now pawn to e6. Now Arjun sets up his pawns on light squares, and he has a dark square bishop, so they will complement each other. We have rook f to d1, and bishop to f8 now. Arjun needs to find a more useful diagonal for this bishop, and also this gets more firepower to the b4 square, and Pragg does the same. He goes bishop to f1, knight to b4 attacks the queen, and queen to e2, and now just rook to a3, finally going after that isolated b pawn. We have queen to b2 defending, and now knight to a2, offering a trade of knights here. So knight captures on a2, rook captures, and now first rook captures on c8, attacking Arjun's queen on a8. Arjun captures with the knight, and now queen to c3, and now just knight back to e7. And now Arjun's plan is, okay, Pragg is now the one with the bishop pair, but the knight is a bit more useful here than the bishops, it would seem. His plan, of course, is knight to f5, to d6, and then to e4. And from e4, you are attacking all sorts of squares like c3, d2, also f2, which could be very, very important. So pawn to b4 by Pragg, and knight to f5. Arjun starts the journey of the knight. We have rook to c1, now with some ideas of maybe trading queens off if the position allows it, and now bishop to d6. Also knight to d6 is playable here, just continuing with your plan. But Arjun first goes bishop to d6. We have bishop to e5. Now Pragg says, all right, you can trade here, but then I take away the d6 square from your knight. And Arjun decides that this will work in his favor. Bishop captures, pawn captures, and king to g7 now. So Pragg cannot just force a queen trade. We have pawn to b5 and now queen to d8. And now comes queen to b4. We have pawn to d4. The queen is very useful here. You can push the pawn to b6 and then play something like rook to c7, go after the b7 pawn. And if Pragg can create a passed b pawn, should be very good for him. And also it adds more defense to the king side. But here Arjun finds this very tricky d4 move, and Pragg has to figure out how to go about this. And there really isn't a great move for Pragg here. For example, if he captures, knight captures, this knight is just a monster here. You will put your queen on d5, centralize it, grab hold of this diagonal, then ideas like knight to f3 come to mind. And it's just not very good for white. So Pragg did the only move he has, and that is pawn to e4. He kicks away the knight. And now Arjun, of course, plays knight captures on g3. And it looks like, okay, this can't actually work, but it does, because you have the rook here, you have the active queen, and you have the passed d pawn. So f captures on g3, and now pawn to d3. And believe it or not, the position is dead equal here, but only if Pragg plays a very, very hard move to find. And they were both already in time trouble, so it's not easy to solve everything. But you guys are, hopefully comfortable in your own homes, or maybe, driving or something. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the only move that doesn't lose the game for Pragg while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on always looking outside of the box. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to h1. This is the only move that doesn't lose, because it is absolutely essential to avoid queen b6 check. If you allow queen b6 check followed by queen to f2, it's game over. Because now after king to h1, you just don't have time for queen to b6 to f2 because of the simple rook c8. And now if queen f2, queen f8 is checkmate. So that tempo is very, very important. However, Pragg played bishop to g2, seems like also a perfectly valid idea, but now the problem is Arjun just goes queen to b6 with check, king to h2, and now queen to f2, threatening checkmate. Pragg defends it with rook to g1, and again it seems like Pragg escapes and he's just going to be up a piece, but there is a move that wins the game for Arjun. So feel free to pause the video now and win the game for Arjun with the black pieces while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the only winning move in the position. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is rook to e2. Rook to e2 with the basic idea of keeping pressure on g2, and now you can play pawn to d2. The problem is if you play pawn to d2 right away, you disconnect the queen and the rook. And now rook to d1 is a very nice move, and Pragg survives. There's no way to put more pressure on g2, and that's pretty much it. Not a lot to do here. There are even some ideas like queen to e2 goes after the rook. You can even play queen to e7, and now you have a force to draw because of this diagonal. So nothing to do here. Queen captures, queen to f6 with check, king to f8, queen to d8 with check, and so on and so on. So after rook to g1, rook to e2 was played, and now there is no defense for Pragg. We have queen to e7, again trying to get some sort of a perpetual, but now it doesn't work. As the queen is still on f2. So pawn to d2. Pragg did play queen to f6 with check, but now just queen captures, e captures, and king captures on f6. Rook to f1 with check, and now king to e5. We have king to g1, and now you could very easily mistake everything for a winning move and play rook to e1, but then bishop to d3 and no more queening of the d pawn. So here, king to d4 is the most precise move. Pragg plays it. Arjun plays it. Bishop to f3, and now just king to e3, not allowing the bishop to control the d1 square. That's why this king to d4 to e3 maneuver was so important. And Arjun just finds all of the top moves, all of the only moves that win the game. Arjun found them all. And that's what it takes to take down Praggnanandhaa. Now, if you capture on e2, then just king captures. Next move, you queen the pawn, so nothing to it. So Pragg tried one more move, bishop to g4, but now pawn to h5. We have bishop captures on e2. Now you have to capture it. King captures, and now rook to f2 with check. King to d3, rook f1, stopping d1, but now king to c2. And that's all there is. Rook f2, king to c1, and now rook captures on f7, and finally d1 queen. We have rook to f1. This will win back the queen, but the extra pawn is just too much. We have pawn to pawn to e5, pawn to b6, and now queen captures on f1 with check, and he was in this position on move 53 that Praggnanandhaa resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Sorry, I said an extra pawn. There's no extra pawn. It's just that the position is completely winning for him. The problem is after king captures on f1, you can just play king to d2, and that's it. King to f2, king to d3. You're gonna win this pawn. King to f3, and now it's very simple, g5, and you just put your opponent in zugzwang. Okay, after a move like h4, g4, or g4, h4, doesn't really matter. Prague will be in zugzwang. You will have to move the king, and then the e4 pawn falls, and then you're just going to move the king, queen, this pawn. There's really nothing you can do about that. So, of course, he spots this after queen captures on f1, and he was in this position, like I said, on move 53, that he resigns the game. And now he's in a position, the same one as Gukesh against Magnus. He will need to win a classical game with the black pieces in order to force tiebreak. So we're going to see who will emerge victorious between the two good friends, Praggnanandhaa or Arjun Erigaisi, but chances are it will be Arjun. But, you know, it's up to Prague to prove otherwise. And regarding the other games, I'm just going to spoil the results now. So if any of you don't want to hear it, just, you know, close the video. Here are the results. Gukesh, of course, lost to Magnus. We've already seen that. Vidi drew his game against Nijat Abbasov, and Lenier Dominguez Perez drew his game against Fabiano Caruana, even though he was winning for quite a big part of the game. But in the end, Fabi just found excellent moves, and well, Lenier just couldn't convert to a full point. So yeah, that's the game, and a little bit of info about what happened in the other games. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I would like to thank Srinivas Kashyap, E1 Czech, Nano ID, Mario Encinosa, and Michael Shui for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions, but mostly covering the FIDE World Cup until it finishes, and until we know who is going into the Candidates Tournament 2024. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.